All right, another loaded show coming your way on 76ers Now, and here's everything that we're talking about. Just going to go through the latest 76ers news and rumors, NBA draft coming up at the end of this month, NBA free agency right on the heels of that. So is Donovan Mitchell re-signing with the Cleveland Cavaliers? If that's the case, no longer a trade target. According to Charania, Jimmy Butler wants to be in Miami and stay there. And Kelly Oubre Jr. signs with an agency that has ties to the New York Knicks. What could that mean for Philadelphia? We're going to discuss it all, but first, on the Oubre front, really good year last year for Philadelphia on the vet min. If you want the Sixers to re-sign him, knowing he's going to be a little bit more pricey, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. If not, I want you to comment why. And with that, let's go through it all here on 76ers Now. Story number one, is a Donovan Mitchell trade dead? Michael Scotto, HoopsHype, saying that Donovan Mitchell is expected to sign a contract extension with the Cleveland Cavaliers. I did not foresee this happening. If it does end up ringing true, I'm going to be surprised by this because Donovan Mitchell has always hit me as a guy who wants to play for the New York Knicks or the Miami Heat. There's been so much buzz there. Is he just going to take the bag? Here's what Scotto had to say in his HoopsHype piece. Several rival executives believe Donovan Mitchell will sign an extension with Cleveland. The belief is Mitchell, who just completed his 7th season, will sign a max extension for at least the next 3 seasons, which would put him at 10 years of service and eligible for more money on his next contract due to CBA rules. Could this be a blessing in disguise? I know we've talked about Donovan Mitchell here on the show, but one thing that Chip and I believe to be true, not sure about how he fits alongside Tyrese Maxey. In addition to that, how could he coincide with Joel Embiid? Those are 2 dominant players. Donovan Mitchell, a ball-dominant player. He requires and needs the basketball to maximize his skill set, and that's scoring the basketball. And specifically, if you have Donovan Mitchell and Tyrese Maxey, is that too many cooks in the kitchen? You know what Mitchell does well, put the ball in the hoop. In the playoffs, he's also been highly productive. And you look at the regular season numbers over the last 4 years, at least 25 points per game in each of those years, whether it be with Utah or with Cleveland. And the three-point number is very respectable. There's no doubt he's a very talented player. I don't know if he's ever going to be a number 1 on a championship team because I'm not sure he can carry you throughout a series for 7 games against an elite defense that can fully hone in on him, especially when you factor in kind of a one-way player. He's talented for sure, but I think there are better trade targets for Philadelphia who might not cost as much on a max and who might fit better on this basketball team than Donovan Mitchell. Could that be Jimmy Butler? It looks as though that is not going to be the case. The Sixers might be interested in reacquiring him when they should have never let him go. I said that after the 2019 season. I wanted to see Philadelphia have continuity and run it back then. I thought that they were a really good basketball team, but they trade him to the Miami Heat, and it's ended up being a franchise-altering move for the wrong reasons. Shams Charania, where does this come from? He was on the Pat McAfee show and had an update on Jimmy Butler this week. He said, "My sense is Jimmy Butler does not want to be anywhere but Miami. Sense is he loves it in Miami. But again, he is extension eligible this year. There are multiple teams out there that would give him an extension." Philadelphia, one of the teams that would be glad and happy to give Jimmy Butler the bag. I think that he would be a good fit culturally and on the floor, attitude-wise. I think that he could help out Joel Embiid. They're both really close. I think that he would get along well as far as the tenacity alongside Nick Nurse, who's known to be intense. And we've heard this multiple times now that Jimmy Butler clearly wants to be in Miami. It would look weird for him to be elsewhere. We know how he looks in the 76ers uniform. I would certainly welcome that. I think it increases your championship chances. The Boston Celtics look to be a buzzsaw. You have Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, 2 top 10, 15, 20 players, depending on your list, who are now going to win an NBA title. They're going to beat the Dallas Mavericks. I was wrong in my prediction. I'll eat crow. But they're both really good. They're both going to continue to be together. Now they have a title. Who's the one guy who's not scared to go into Boston? Who's the one guy who's had success against the Celtics and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown? It's Jimmy Butler. All I care about is winning a frickin' NBA championship. Shoot, can the Sixers just get past the second round? You bring in a player like Jimmy Butler, I think he helps you accomplish that. Also interesting is that we keep hearing multiple teams would give Jimmy Butler an extension. Again, Philadelphia, one of those teams. Could Jimmy's team, his agent, his crew be putting pressure on the Heat to give Jimmy Butler what he wants, which is maybe for the final time in his career, a little bit of a max deal, whether it be short-term or long-term. Coming up next after that two-pack of rumors, we have a third one that we want to get to. Is Kelly Oubre Jr. signing with CAA after representing himself so that he could maybe go to the New York Knicks? Stay tuned for that. And speaking of the Knicks, let's beat the Knicks. Last video that the Knicks had on Knicks Now here at Chat Sports, 277 likes. We can beat that number just with this video alone. All you have to do is hit that thumbs up icon right now. As for Kelly Oubre Jr., he signed with CAA, the very well-known agency. CAA tweeting out the graphic, putting it on social media. Welcome to the family. Kelly Oubre used to represent himself, but now after playing very well for Philadelphia in 2023-2024, probably not the best route to go to represent yourself, because if you're with an agency, usually, often, they could help you secure a pretty good deal, especially when you look at the list of CAA clients. I tried to intern with them back in the summer of 2014 in Los Angeles. They never got back to me. Come on, CAA, what's up with that? Devin Booker, Jalen Brunson, Paul George, Tyrese Halliburton, Donovan Mitchell, Karl Anthony Towns, Zion Williamson, and Chris Paul. That's a pretty good list of 8 players right there that CAA represents. And there's a longer list of clients that they represent and have under their watch, and now that includes Kelly Oubre Jr. Why does this all matter? Well, in the Atlantic Division, in the Eastern Conference, the New York Knicks have strong ties with CAA. We just told you, Jalen Brunson, represented by CAA. Knicks president Leon Rose once ran the basketball branch of CAA, and many of the Knicks' biggest stars, in addition to Jalen Brunson, CAA clients, Julius Randle, Isaiah Hartenstein, who could realistically get maybe $20 million per year, and then Josh Hart. Tom Thibodeau and multiple members of the coaching staff also with CAA as well. Now, the Knicks can only offer Oubre the mid-level exception. That contract is about 4 years and $55 million. The thing is, that's more than what the Sixers can offer. And I feel like Kelly Oubre is in a spot where, yeah, he broke out, had a really good season for Philadelphia. Nick Nurse got him to play defense. He was an athletic wing who helped the Sixers on both ends of the floor. But he's not going to take, quote-unquote, a hometown discount to stay with Philadelphia when the Sixers can offer him $6 to $8 million per year, but the Knicks can offer him 4 for $55. And if I'm Kelly Oubre, you should probably take the best deal. One of the cooler stories across the NBA last year was Kelly Oubre's emergence with Philadelphia and him being able to really revive his career. Prior to signing with Philadelphia, he was looked at as a good stats, bad team player, a good athlete who never played defense and wasn't engaged on that end. Shout out to Nick Nurse. He turned Kelly Oubre into a really good defensive player. Now, his shooting numbers weren't great, but at times he was hot from deep. He can play in that dunker spot. He can play small ball 4. And for Philadelphia, he was a really good athletic wing. Now that he signs with CAA going into free agency, there's a lot of buzz because of the Knicks' ties to CAA that Kelly Oubre is going to go to the New York Knicks, right up I-95 to Madison Square Garden. Philadelphia can't let that happen. The Knicks can pay him more money than Philadelphia can, but he would cause the Sixers some issues with what he's able to do on both ends of the floor. Now, some potential Oubre replacements. Derrick Jones Jr. has had a very, very good season for the Dallas Mavericks. A high flyer who can hit that corner three. He can run in transition. Prior to this year, kind of known as just an athlete who can dunk the basketball. This year, he's been more than that. Patrick Williams has had moments of being really, really good for Chicago. Other head-scratching moments where you're like, man, you are not that guy who should be taking 15 shots per night. But as a 3-and-D player, has some value. Najee Marshall from the New Orleans Pelicans. You have Royce O'Neal, who's played for a lot of playoff teams in his career. And then Kyle Anderson, who can direct guys for where they need to be on the floor, can kind of be that point guard extension, smart, savvy player, not going to shoot at all with that ugly-ass form. But those are all kind of athletes who can defend to a certain degree, who are going to be affordable for Philadelphia. Let's bring on producer Chip. Your thoughts on all this, my man?
So with Oubre signing with an agency, and obviously CAA in particular, but the fact that he's deciding not to represent himself anymore, to me, that shows, one, he's expecting to cash out, and signing with the agency will help him cash out to the highest of his potential. And, the Sixers going to be going star hunting. Oubre, they said 6 to 8 million, 6 to 8 million. Oubre is probably going to end up getting now anywhere from 12, maybe 15 million, and that just doesn't really fit what the Sixers want to be able to do. Right now, to me, the vibes around the situation, I feel like Oubre is going to leave. Now, he's talked about how much he loved it here this year, and he really did fit in with the city very well. The fans loved him. And, he said, I felt wanted here. I felt like this is a place where I could continue to play. But he also wants to make money, because prior to this season, he signed with the Sixers on a vet min deal. And now he played so well, improving defensively, having his moments offensively, attacking the basket, and was pretty solid in the playoffs against the New York Knicks. He wants to cash in, because who knows when he can cash in again, right? Your time's always so limited in the NBA.
Yeah.
So if I had to guess, I think he probably will be elsewhere. Will it be the Knicks? I really hope not. I feel like he'd be a good cultural fit for the Knicks as well. Will he just go where he can get the biggest contract? Certainly a potential. Does he just go to a bad team that pays him a lot of money? Does he want to keep winning after having a taste of that this year in the playoffs? We will see, but right now, my opinion, the vibes are not good on Kelly Oubre coming back. I would love to have him back, and I want him back, but if I had to predict it, I don't think he'll be back in Philadelphia next year.
It's just the really realistic outlook, right? You get a player on the vet min who plays really well last year. It's a great story. But when you sign players who end up exceeding expectations or exceeding the price point in which you're paying them, what would you do? You take a bargain to do something that you love as far as your career goes. You give that company some really good production. But then if another company sees you and says, we really like what you can do. You can bring a lot to the table. You can be highly productive for us in moving the bottom line. Are you going to stay with that previous company that can't afford you any longer just because you had success with them? There are instances of that, right? Or are you going to go somewhere else where you'll have ample opportunities financially and basketball-wise? Kind of a no-brainer for Kelly Oubre. Unfortunate, but again, realistic. How much would you pay Kelly Oubre in free agency? Sixers don't have a lot of dough that they can give a player like that as far as overspending. That's why it's a problem. They have a lot of cap space, but you're not going to overspend and go too lavish on Kelly Oubre.